Have you ever wondered what Amsterdam is all about? Don't just read about the culture that has accepted cannabis. Experience it firsthand with CS Travel's Sensible Amsterdam Tour with NORML. Travel to one of Europe's most beautiful cities this January for an educational and recreational visit to a city that regulates cannabis like alcohol. CS Travel has arranged an exclusive visit for reform-minded Americans that includes a private tour of some of Amsterdam's most renowned coffee shops, educational seminars with coffee shop proprietors, local law enforcement, members of the Cannabis Retailers Association, and NORML staff. Entertainment includes a special evening at the Boom Chicago Comedy Club, canal tours, visits to the city's many museums, including the world-famous Van Gogh Museum. Don't just wonder about Amsterdam, experience the beauty and freedom of this unique city firsthand with CS Travel and NORML's Sensible Amsterdam Tour. Pricing information is available online at coffeeshoptravel.com. That's coffeeshoptravel.com. Or call toll-free at 800-816-1846. That's 800-816-1846. Be a sensible American. Visit Amsterdam with CS Travel and NORML this January. Call 1-800-816-1846 right now to book your trip. More information is available at NORML.org. And distributed by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws in Washington, D.C. This is your daily audio stash, the growing truth about cannabis. Welcome to the most popular audio podcast regarding marijuana in all of America and all the world, featuring interviews with scientists, politicians, doctors, prohibition policy activists, regular cannabis consumers, musicians, and NORML staff and NORML's board of directors, along with music and comedy no other podcast can offer. You can always find out more about the show at our website, NORMLAudiostash.com. We're ending marijuana prohibition with education, one listener at a time. Welcome back here today to the Audio Stash on Tuesday, December 18th. I'm your host, Chris Goldstein. Take a moment to join us here at NORML. Help us re-legalize marijuana in America. Help us end marijuana prohibition by visiting NORML.org to make your donation or join NORML today. Folks, if you are rolling around at night, waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning with pangs of guilt going, I didn't give during the re-legalize campaign last week, well, don't worry. You can make your donation right now at norml.org. And a big thanks to everyone who did participate last week. Again, we raised thousands of dollars for NORML last week, mainly through our podcast listeners, our MySpace friends, and our friends up at Facebook.com. Make sure you tell all of your friends to make a positive choice this year. Choose to end marijuana prohibition and put your money where your mouth is. Make a donation to NORML. Got a great show for you here today on NORML's Daily Audio Stash. We're going to check in with Matt Simon at sendtherightmessage.com. We've been checking in periodically with Matt at Send the Right Message and Stuart at Granite Staters for Medical Marijuana. Both groups have encountered every single presidential candidate at town hall meetings and other events in New Hampshire and have really made the issue of marijuana prohibition part of the presidential campaign, a big effort by both those groups, and they've had a huge impact out there. We have links to both groups today on our website at normlaudiostash.com. Also in the program today, we're continuing in with our mix of good Audio Stash music. Sort of a thank you. We're going to have music every day here on the program as we get into the holidays. And make sure to tune in Christmas week and the week of New Year's coming up very quickly here as we present the best stories of 2007, the top medical and science and marijuana policy stories of 2007. We're going to break it all down here with guests on NORML's Daily Audio Stash. We did that last year. They're very popular shows, and we're working on those top lists as we speak, booking those guests in. Going to be a great set of shows here on NORML's Daily Audio Stash. And folks, today and tomorrow are really the last couple of days where you can book in for NORML's Sensible Amsterdam tour with CS Travel. Former NORML director Richard Cowan is leading the group. I believe there are about 12 or 16 folks have already signed up online to CS Travel and NORML's Sensible Amsterdam tour. Really pretty reasonable rates for as little as about $850. You can get a week-long stay in Amsterdam and personal tours of coffee shops with the owners, as well as meetings with the Cannabis Retailers Association of Amsterdam. A very unique trip for everyone out there who is interested in marijuana reform. Visit a place where marijuana reform has already happened. Visit Amsterdam with NORML and CS Travel. Links to the Sensible Amsterdam tour available right up on our website at normalaudiostash.com and up at norml.org. Let's get into the stash today. We're going to have audio of John Edwards talking about medical marijuana here today in our segment with Matt Simon at sendtherightmessage.com. Let's get to that right now.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
Today, here on the Audio Stash, we're going to check in again with Matt Simon in the Live Free or Die state of New Hampshire. Matt is the man behind SendTheRightMessage.com. Matt's project and another in New Hampshire, Granite Staters for Medical Marijuana, have been confronting every presidential candidate on marijuana prohibition and the failed war on drugs policy. You can find a candidate report card at SendTheRightMessage.com that gives letter grades to the candidates based on their views of prohibition. 3 weeks ago, we featured an interview Matt conducted with Democratic presidential candidate Dennis Kucinich, and because of the intensity of this election season and the first place status of New Hampshire's election, there is always something new to talk about at SendTheRightMessage.com. Matt, it's great to have you back here on the show today.
Good morning, Chris. Great to be here.
Always good to have you here on the program, Matt. First off today, I've seen your candidate report card and your blog posts picked up by a number of high-profile online outlets like the Huffington Post and Reason.com. So Send the Right Message really kind of getting out there, Matt.
Yeah, we've definitely seen some of the stuff we've done has trickled, we've put it as many places as we can, and it's trickled its way up to where people are now, more and more people are generally aware of it. And we saw that at the International Drug Policy Reform Conference in New Orleans, where it was very encouraging to see how many people around the country were aware of what we were doing, and we're sharing it with people. So it's kind of a decentralized, bottom-up approach to getting the word out there. If the elite media won't do it from the top down, we have to do it from the bottom up.
Righto. Let's talk about your latest blog post at sendtherightmessage.com. It's entitled Ron Paul, John Stossel, and the Drug War Too Hot for TV. Matt, what's happening there?
Well, I was just amazed. When I got back from the conference, that was the first email that I opened, was somebody sending me the link to this article and excerpt of a video from John Stossel, who has been a outspoken critic of the drug war for some time, and he's one of the very few that we have allies in mainstream media. Working for ABC and being co-host of 2020, and occasionally he's been able to do excellent stories on the drug war. He interviewed Peter McWilliams, many years ago before he died, unfortunately, and has been able to raise issues occasionally. And this interview with Ron Paul was just remarkable to me, having watched, Ron Paul go on show after show after show and have difficulty articulating his positions because the questioning is not geared to draw out his philosophy. And John Stossel is somebody who reads the same economists as Ron Paul and believes in essentially the same philosophy of government as Ron Paul. For them to sit down and have this kind of conversation was just truly illuminating. And for all the people who are out there and have heard of this Ron Paul guy, they might have seen the T-shirt, "Who is Ron Paul?" Now there's a blimp going around that says, "Who is Ron Paul?" So there's a lot of curiosity. Who is Ron Paul? What is it that makes people do what they did? For example, Sunday, December 16th, raised $6 million in one day from 58,000 individual donors. 25,000 of them were donating to Ron Paul for the first time. Now, to me, any other candidate who does this, it would have been front page news, it would have been widely reported, and it would have been the talk of the town on Monday. Broke John Kerry's single-day fundraising record, and it's a buried story. And for me to see that, I'm really kind of, I poo-pooed some of the conspiracy theory stuff kind of early on, but to me, it's systematically, they are afraid that there's something in Ron Paul's message that people don't want to see, that people in power don't want to see on the waves, and the Stossel interview really captured it. They discussed the war on drugs in a way I've never seen it discussed, and it's something that would have truly, people would have at the end of that known who Ron Paul is, and why a 72-year-old obstetrician, a Christian conservative, would oppose the drug war on moral grounds and on pragmatic grounds. And he was able to make that case in his conversation with John Stossel, and it was relegated to the web. They will not show it on 2020. Let's only put it on the internet, because that's where Ron Paul's fans are, and that's where the discussion about Ron Paul's ideas is most active. And to me, that's just, they're shirking their duty to act in the public interest. It's clear that if you have, if you're the media, that's what you're supposed to do, is inform people about who these candidates are and where they stand on things.
And Matt, you're pointing out something very salient with the $6 million raised by Ron Paul in a single day. This on the heels of an earlier online fundraising day that netted over $4 million. So does it even matter that it's not on TV, Matt? I mean, could you reach more people online these days than with a 2020 broadcast? Has the media and the public shifted that much now to being online?
Well, there's still a great number of people who, believe it or not, to people like you and me who are on the internet a lot, there's still a lot of people, and especially in the older demographics, who are not internet people and who are not going to go Google Ron Paul. The other side of the blimp says Google Ron Paul. That's kind of the approach that a lot of Ron Paul's supporters have taken, is that, well, we can't get on the front page of the New York Times and we can't be headlined on the ABC Nightly News because they simply won't put us there. But if we can get more people to the internet to look up Ron Paul, and his message isn't a soundbite kind of message. I mean, he can reduce it into sound bites because he's running for office. He talks about liberty and freedom and getting the government off our backs and out of our bedrooms and, things like that. But to really explore the philosophy takes more than 15 seconds. And so I think people, the Ron Paul supporters, the grassroots Ron Paul revolution, if you want to call it that, is taking the approach. We need to get more and more people to the internet, typing in Ron Paul's name in these search boxes, watching YouTube videos of him talking on this issue and on that issue, and demonstrate the level of support he has that way, because it's not being reported that he has support in the mainstream media.
And Matt, do you think that Ron Paul's candidacy also has become somewhat of a test of how politically active the online audience really is, a real test for the internet power in politics today?
Well, I think absolutely. I mean, people don't understand, I don't think, the history of media in this country. If you can imagine what it must have been like to have a completely decentralized media before the corporate, the corporatization of media took place with, William Randolph Hearst consolidating a bunch of newspapers and really around the turn of the century, a little before. When guys like Ben Franklin were publishing newspapers, and it was all opinion, and you'd have 3 or 4 newspapers in a town, and they'd come from different ideologies, and it was, there would be more engagement of ideas. entire newspapers dedicated to ending slavery, for example. The Liberator, William, I'm going to forget his name, William Lloyd Garrison published this abolitionist newspaper for 30 or 40 years prior to the fall of slavery. And that's how they were able to get their ideas out into the marketplace of ideas and legitimize opposition to slavery. Well, how do we in the media legitimize opposition to prohibition when we can't get it properly discussed in the media that people watch? Well, we have to turn the discussion towards the Internet.
And Matt, in talking about ending modern prohibition, you and other reform groups often use imagery from a successful battle to end alcohol prohibition in America in the early 20th century. Right at the homepage of sendtherightmessage.com, there's this image from 1932. It's an old car. It's painted on the side, and the phrases are stamp out prohibition, as well as save our children and protect our youth. So why did you choose that image in particular, Matt?
Well, I think that's the only historical model we really have is the end of alcohol prohibition. It was absolutely poo-pooed by, as late as 1931. You had people saying there's no way prohibition will ever end. You had senators saying, making out there's no chance that it'll ever be repealed. Can't happen. And what happened was that enough people, and not drunks, but enough responsible people, and a lot of people who had supported prohibition, a lot of people who had pushed for it, who believed, naively that pass a law and everybody will stop drinking. And once it turned out that it didn't work that way, and it clearly resulted in all this crime and widespread disrespect for the law and violence and bullets flying in the streets, you had police officers, you had clergy, you had, people across the respected society. And you can see a police officer standing there in that image, which is, to me, just a beautiful image that captures what we need to have to end prohibition. We need people to be willing to step out and say, you know what, this isn't about whether we want to get high or not. This is about basic individual rights and crafting sound policies that are enforceable and that people will respect. Because you can't, the difference between a real crime, theft, murder, rape, child molestation, where there's a clear victim and everybody wants the perpetrator to get caught, to, golly, my neighbor ingests a substance I don't like in his basement. How do you go after that? You have to invade people's privacy. You have to employ snitches. You have to do all these things that degrade civil society, and the unintended consequences, just like with alcohol prohibition, are what we see today. And I think that's the model to follow. We need law enforcement. We need, people who are pillars of the community to be willing to stand in the streets and say we need a more humane approach to drug policy.
And folks, we actually just witnessed a pretty big shift in American drug policy when the Senate Sentencing Committee changed the guidelines to give individual judges in this country more discretion in prison sentences, acknowledging a disparity in crack versus powder cocaine sentences. But when these new guidelines were enacted last week, the Sentencing Committee also called for a review of 19,000 past cases where these disparities may have come into play and people are still in jail. I personally found that very encouraging, Matt, and a great example of what could happen when marijuana is legalized in America. There are about 40,000 Americans serving time in prison for marijuana violations as we speak, and if we legalized marijuana tomorrow, this points to the structure we could use to review those convictions and some precedent to do so.
Well, I hope we get to the point where we're talking about that very soon. It was encouraging to see that this is finally happening. And, with the crack and cocaine sentencing disparities, it's just such an obvious proof of one of the primary criticisms of the war on drugs is how racist it is in both its origins and its implementations. The statistics are all over the internet about how, white people are the majority of drug users, and then the majority of people who get incarcerated, something like 40% of the entire prison population is black. And this is one of the reasons why, people, the crack menace, people got so scared in the 80s over the media, reporting about crack and these images of crack babies, and it was, the addict as vampire kind of image that we've seen, by prohibitionists put out into the media kind of all along, going back to the origins of the drug war. This was just the newest menace to get people all whipped up over again. But obviously, crack cocaine and powder cocaine aren't really different. You boil it down with some baking soda, it goes a little farther and it's cheaper. So it's nice that they finally straightened this out. And sure, I hope it's a model of things to come, because if we're able to change marijuana prohibition, I would like to think that all the people who are incarcerated would have a chance to be pardoned or reviewed or whatever else. But first we have to get to that point. We got to change the laws.
Indeed, Matt. And also today, I'd like to discuss a very interesting turn in the presidential election on the Democratic side, and that's one that hits home there in New Hampshire politics as well. Last week, the husband of your former New Hampshire governor and co-chair of Hillary Clinton's campaign floated some statements to the Washington Post about Barack Obama's past drug use and how Republicans might attack it. Looks like Obama had to worry about Democrats attacking on that front first. Matt, do you think this really was some slip of the tongue by this powerful New Hampshire politico, or was there something maybe more to it?
Well, I've seen Bill Shaheen spoke before. He came to the college I was teaching at a few months ago, and I got to see him up close and personal. No, I refuse to believe that it was a slip of the tongue in any sense. I think he was deliberately sticking things out there. Now, I don't believe that necessarily that anybody else in the campaign was involved in this, but he's been in politics long enough, and he's a power broker in this state, and obviously to be made national co-chair of the Hillary Clinton campaign, he's a guy that's got a lot of clout. And for him to me, that's something out of a 1990s political playbook. Let's demonize the opponent for drug use, and it'll work. And this time it's backfiring. We're seeing that in the major media. I was watching Hardball last night, and Chris Matthews was still making hay out of this and bashing the Clinton campaign. So I'm happy to see the backlash happen. That tells me that the people have turned the corner in the way they approach these issues, and that people are no longer frightened at the prospect of, if we elect a black president who tried cocaine when he was 17 or whatever, then that'll send the wrong message to kids, and our kids will all be druggies. People aren't afraid of that. That's not part of the discussion today, where it might have been 10 years ago, and Bill Shaheen, needs to get with the times.
And Matt, is someone who is both a New Hampshire resident and someone who follows politics quite closely, let me ask, how powerful is Bill Shaheen, and how important was it that it was him making these statements?
He's very powerful within the state. Certainly, his wife was governor, and is a candidate for the U.S. Senate, and is heavily favored, predicted to beat John Sununu and be our United States Senator. Obviously to be national co-chair of the Hillary campaign is a big position. But sure, he's a prominent lawyer in the state. He's been involved in, out front or behind the scenes in a whole lot of the political goings on here. So it is significant, and it is news here to people who are political insiders when a flap like this happens and blows up in his face. And most people in the discussions that I've seen online and elsewhere seem to think that, he stuck his foot in his mouth and resigning from the campaign was the right thing to do, and he'll probably pay for that for a while.
Well, he may not be paying at all if, as some suggest, it wasn't such a foot-in-mouth move. We shall see. Also today, Matt, you at sendtherightmessage.com have videotaped many interactions with the presidential candidates, asking them questions about marijuana. But this week, John Edwards offered his own video on YouTube regarding pot. Edwards created 10 questions to answer himself on YouTube and chose to use one of those questions discussing the federal raids on medical marijuana facilities in California. Here's the audio from this video, again, posted by himself, John Edwards, at youtube.com. We have links to the video at normalaudiostash.com. Here's that audio now.
For me, this is very simple. I believe we ought to actually respect the democratic process. I would end the DEA raids in states where either the voters or the legislature have approved the use of medical marijuana. And as to the federal policy should be science-driven. One of the most offensive things about the Bush administration is they've been one of the most anti-science administrations in American history. Policy for science should not be driven by politics. It should be driven by science, and it will be in my administration.
And again, we have links to that John Edwards video at normalaudiostash.com. Matt Edwards voiced strong opposition to the concept of decriminalizing marijuana during a Democratic debate, towing an almost DEA party line when he did so. But now this video on medical marijuana, Matt, can you have it both ways? Can you oppose decriminalization but also talk this way about the DEA raids in California?
Well, apparently you can, and the poll numbers are different for the two issues, so obviously that it's acceptable to have a different opinion on one than the other. You know, to me what's instructive is to go back to 2003 when John Edwards said it would be irresponsible to end the DEA raids on medical marijuana clinics. And now 4 years later, if you watch that video, says, to me this is simple. Like, it's simple. It wasn't simple 4 years ago. You had the opposite position. Now it's simple, now that you've noticed that 75% of the people are for it. But, you know, we'll take it. We'll take it. Anytime they change their positions in our direction, that's a good thing. But I do want people to be aware of, and I want to point out that he had the opposite position in 2003, and today he says, to me this is simple. People had voted on this in these states, and the same principles applied, and it wasn't simple 4 years ago. So to me, that's baffling. But I'm glad that he's on the right side of at least that part of the issue now.
And Matt, the candidate report card is up at sendtherightmessage.com, where John Edwards rates a C along with Obama and Clinton. Matt, who do you think, based on your report card, your interactions, and your live free or die New Hampshire resident instincts, who would really have the most impact to affect some change in prohibition policy as president?
Well, to me, the obvious answer is Ron Paul, you know, but if you want to talk about the ones who are polling over 20%, obviously on the Republican side, they're all extremely bad, except for Ron Paul, and on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton, I think, is pretty much a known commodity, and John Edwards has evolved to a certain point, as we just discussed, but Barack Obama is still very much a wild card, and he's going to play it safe. No matter what question we ask him, he's going to play it extremely safe, but there are a lot of people who are Obama supporters who I talk to who speculate that he would like to do, you know, things to move in a better direction on drug policy. But that's an awful lot of speculation. It isn't in his record. It isn't on his website. It isn't something he talks about. But I do find it very refreshing that he's able to raise the issue of his own drug use and in the way he's able to do it. Because if you want to discourage, you know, drug abuse or teen use or anything like that, that is a much more sensible way to go about it. You know what? I tried this stuff when I was this age, and you know what? I decided not to do it anymore for these reasons. Just comes across so much better to kids than, I've never done anything wrong, and by the way, if you do this, you're going to jail. That model is a proven failure. The model of, you know, not discussing your indiscretions and the George Bush admonition to parents that, you know, we should lie to our children about anything that we may have done in our past because we don't want them to get the wrong idea and think things are okay because we did them. You know, I think kids are smarter than that, and I think that's a cop-out, and it's very refreshing to see Obama be able to talk about his past and have it not blow up in his face in the polls. If anything, it's helping him.
Righto, Matt. Well, many thanks for what is always a wonderful conversation today and for sharing all of this right here on NORML's Daily Audio Stash. Looking forward to checking in with you again as the New Hampshire Election Day hurtles towards us here.
Thank you, Chris, and I hope everybody will go to sendtherightmessage.com and check out the print version of our report card. There are only a 1,000 of them in existence right now. We'd love to print a bunch more, so if people want to see them, or we'd be happy to ship them to people, pass them around. It's a great conversation piece. So get in touch with us. Let us know if you want some.
Many thanks again, Matt. Matt Simon is with SendTheRightMessage.com. We have links to the website right up on our own at NORMLAudiostash.com. We'll be checking in with Matt again as the elections draw closer.
Sits in his 37th floor, sweet and swivels to gaze down at the city he made me in. He allows me to stand and solicit graffiti until he needs the land I stand on. And I, in my darkened threshold, am pawing through my pockets the receipts, the bus schedules, the urgent napkin poems, and matchbook phone numbers, all of which laundering has rendered pulpy and strange, loose change. And a key asks me, go ahead, ask me. Ask me if I care. I got the answer here. I wrote it down somewhere. I just gotta find it. And somebody in their spray paint got too close. Somebody came on too heavy. Now look at me, mad ugly by the drooling letters. I was better off alone. Ain't that the way it is? They don't know the first thing, but you don't know that till they take the first swing. My fingers are red and swollen from the cold. I'm getting bold in my old age, so go ahead. Try the door, it doesn't matter anymore. No, the weak-hearted are strong-willed, and we're being kept alive until we're killed. He's up there. The ice is clinking in his glass. He sends us little pieces of paper. I don't ask, I just empty my pockets and wait. It's not fate, it's just circumstance. I don't fool myself with romance. I just live phone number to phone number, dusting them against my thighs in the warmth of my pockets, which whisper history incessantly, asking me, where were you? I lower my eyes, wishing I could cry more and care less. Yes, it's true. I was trying to love someone again. I was caught bearing weight, but I love this city, this state, this country is too large, and who's ever in charge of there better take the elevator down and put more than change in our cup, or else we are coming up.
You're listening to Pod Safe Music on NORML's Daily Audio Stash.
They're killing us. These good old boys with busloads of poison out of failing tailpipes and oil-soiled sooty smokestack choke back clouding our view. Killing once pretty cities and vistas with the twin sisters of pollution and addiction sans solutions and restrictions. They're killing us. With melting glaciers and smelting failures that enable inane brains who medicate their erections to ignore the connections between hotter Gulf water and the fury of hurricanes. They're killing us, and we let them, we vet them, we aid and abet them because we behave like slaves, like addicts, addicted to oil. We're oil slick soaked, sick, this sad joke. We get stoked, but we can't get enough of the stuff. Until we're choking on burning petroleum, turning everything heartless and artless like fetid linoleum, covering plush, lush grasslands that get polluted with gas cans. So hasn't the shit already slammed into the fen? They're killing us. And billing us for cleanup while chilling us out. They're killing us. Our elected officials with fishy connections who get through elections, the voters' selections. It's us. We elect these merchants of death with oil in their breath. Time after time and time and again, we ignore the rest of the world while claiming to be the best in the world. We're killing us. We're killing you. See, we rendition and torture and eavesdrop and scorch earth and strip mine and rob blind while polluting and persecuting and prosecuting while prostituting or whoring, if you prefer, warring while lying about dying and blurring the gory story while inferring everything is all about glory. We're killing you. Thrilling, isn't it? Stop us. Because our official position in this age of sedition, fuck you.
Music today from podshow.com on the music site and the Independent Online Distribution Alliance. Links to all of the artists we play here on the Audio Stash available right up on our website at normalaudiostash.com. Many thanks again to everyone who participated during the Relegalize campaign last week. And if you are panged with guilt right now, if you are waking up in the night going, I didn't donate during the Relegalize campaign, well, don't worry. Go on up to NORML.org, make your donation, join NORML today. It's a gift you can give to the entire country, the gift of legally taxed and regulated marijuana. What better gift can there be this holiday season? Just head on up to NORML.org. We'll be back at 4:20 tomorrow. Listening to NORML's Daily Audio Stash, the growing truth about cannabis. Make sure you visit our website at normalaudiostash.com. That's NORMLAUDIOSTASH.com for more information about every day's show. I'm your host, Chris Goldstein. Thanks for listening today. See you at 4:20 tomorrow. The podcasting technology of NORML is made possible by Red Aphid Interactive Media. More information at redaphid.com.
From Washington, D.C., the belly of the anti-marijuana beast. Season's greetings from NORML staff and the board of directors. To you and yours. This is Alan St. Pierre, Executive Director of NORML and the NORML Foundation, and I sincerely hope your holidays are both safe and hemp-filled.
Hi, this is NORML founder and legal counsel Keith Stropp, wishing you a happy holiday from NORML. Let's use this time with family and friends to rededicate ourselves to ending marijuana prohibition and stopping the arrest of responsible marijuana smokers. Happy holidays.